Paltrocast. Jonathan, the first question I have for you is, are you Jonathan to everybody, or do some people get the John or the JS treatment?
I have a variety of nicknames, especially when I'm on set and from my nephews to family. So it's Jonathan John, it's Uncle John John, it's Johnny Boy. I've loud noises in my general direction, I will respond to.
Or number two on the call sheet? You know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
also
Or
works.
number one, number two, anything.
Yeah, well, that ties into the first thing I want to know about. You have extensive credits as an actor, extensive credits as a producer. You may or may not own a photography company. You may or may not be a musician. What are you?
I'm a creative,
Yeah.
simply put. I enjoy life. I love learning and just being a part of a uh, I don't know, a community, a world that's about creating and then sharing that with other people. There's so much to be expressed through both verbal and nonverbal. And I don't know, when I was younger, I was exposed to everything. And so a lot of my life is a representation of that.
Hmm. Creator is a good way of calling it. When did you kind of know that you didn't have to just be an actor? Because back when I was a kid in the olden days, you were just an actor, you were just a director, just a producer. And then we started to see with the Apatow community where they're the star and the executive producer and the co-writer, etc.
So here's what's really interesting. When I first got into acting and really started doing this, I did some research on like what's the history of acting.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see all the old black and white films where, they're like manually, it's like stage and they're doing that, but they now have moving cameras and everything or motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
But when they were doing that, all of the actors are doing what we're doing now, which is the multi-hyphenate. So they would dress up. There would be the damsel in distress. There'd be the fire. They'd be moving the cardboard up and down for the waves, and it's like all this stuff, and before the speakies and everything. And then when they were doing that, eventually someone would stop, run around, throw on a prince or whatever costume,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden run on stage and they would fight the dragon and battle him. And everybody was doing everything. There was a period of time in this art form in which they started pulling these movie stars. Like movie star wasn't a thing before. So they
Mm-hmm.
started plucking these movie stars and saying, that's all you do. Don't do anything else. You're not a creative collaborative or a collaborator. And that was this glorified thing for a long time. And then we started seeing the Judd Apatows, we started seeing the Adam Sandlers, we started seeing the Mark
Mm-hmm.
Wahlbergs and Ben Afflecks and Matt Damons and everybody's Stallones and these people coming through and starting to do the multi hyphenate and being a part of everything. And I think that's the generation now where it's no longer impressive if you're just one thing. It's impressive now if you're a triple threat, if you're involved, which I think everything comes down to what kind of a value add are you, not only to the set, but to your art form and to the people around you.
Really good point. I didn't know that about old Hollywood. I knew, to use a crude, non-artistic example, that in the original NFL games, the team's players played both offense and defense.
Right.
Didn't matter if they weren't a good defensive player, they had to kind of do it all. So at a certain point, some agent started putting in clauses of, well, they can only work X number of hours a day. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect
Wow.
example.
Wow. Okay. So, hey, back to you. A lot of your successes come from Christmas movies. There were not a lot of Christmas movies 15 years ago. And the reason I say that is because Christmas would come around, you go, well, there's National Lampoons, and there's A Christmas Story, and there's Scrooge 34 and 51, whatever my father in law calls it, whatever the
Right.
years are. And then nowadays, there's hundreds of new Christmas movies, and it seems like you're in two or three every year.
Yeah. Wait, so what's the question?
So the question with that is, when did you start to notice of, oh, there's Christmas movies, and this is a good thing. This is a career sustaining thing, and something that people really like.
That's a great question. The Christmas movies have kind of been an interesting avenue,
Hmm.
I guess. And who doesn't like Christmas? I mean, it's just one of those things. And whether you enjoy the
Religious people.
holiday, well, whether you just enjoy the holiday or you just enjoy the time off and what the
Yeah.
holiday produces, and the gifts and whatever, there are a lot of different elements. But in terms of the industry, you're right. I mean, there's been this very interesting. I mean, there's Christmas movies, that's one thing. And then there's this other new genre of like Prince Christmas movies, which has also become a very interesting thing that I've become a part of. And I honestly, I don't know how to comment on it. All I can say is that it's fun to shoot Christmas in Januaries and Februaries. And ironically, I'll probably have at least another two more Christmas movies coming out in 2024. So I've already shot one last year that's going to be out this year, and then my next movie is actually going to be another Christmas movie. So it is a really fun genre to be a part of and to consistently be a part of. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean
Well,
it's
where my mind races to rudely interrupt and cut you off
no,
is
yes,
the
yes.
way that there's the trade shows. They call them Comic Cons. I call them trade shows because you have the booths and you have the people hawking stuff and trying to get your attention to come to the booths. The way that they have those that are generally 80s themed or horror themes, it makes me wonder when we're going to start to get the Christmas con conventions with the actors who have been the leads that we keep seeing in those, and you go to them in July.
It's a I mean, great point. Great point. And I imagine that's going to be happening. There's a whole Hallmark kind of meet and greet thing. I imagine there's going to be the Christmas movie because it really over the last it's like 2 or 3 years it has this whole thing. Every single platform is starting to do the Christmas movies, and everybody's starting to do this like the Prince and the PA and like all this kind of it's amazing. So it's gonna keep growing. I don't see it going down.
Right. Well, kudos to you on steadily working on that end. Where can we see you next, or see your work next, or are we not allowed to know until the Hollywood Reporter or deadline embargo lifts? One of those situations.
Uh, with streaming and with everything that's happening, it's created an interesting distribution concept. So I don't know. It's hard for me to answer because I'm not on the back end of a lot of the films and projects, at least for the ones that I've already filmed that are going to be coming out. I know that there's going to be a lot happening, and I've got several movies that are going to be coming out this year for Christmas, so we have to wait 12 months for that. But for other projects, like I'll have one releasing in February, but I don't know what platform because now it's a bidding game. If it's not studio, it's a bidding game as to what channel or what platform is going to acquire it. So I'm because I'm not privy to those conversations. It's not even that I'm withholding because if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. It's not
Yeah.
even one of those kinds of things. I just don't know because streaming services and distribution it's changed the game for domestic, international, everything.
Right. Well, where I'm going with that is when you are a lowly writer, podcaster, interviewer person, you do the research on the person. You go, okay, let's see what's on Wikipedia, what's on their Instagram,
Right.
what's on the IMDb. And your IMDb says 14 upcoming projects.
Right.
So you don't know if those are errors, if those are just producers
No.
instigating funding, or the person does have 14 upcoming projects.
Yeah. Uh, well, here's what's interesting. Out of the let's say the 14 as an example, those are in post production. We've already filmed them. So that's already happened. That's what this last year was. So, and next year is already set up. I mean, I'm on a mission, man. I'm on a mission and I'm hustling and I'm working and I'm really carving out my name in this industry. And so from 14 last year to even let's just say a lot already set up for next year.
Hmm.
I love this craft. I love what I'm doing, and yeah, I'm making sure that I'm making sure that people know me across all genres, and that's from Christmas to horror to thriller suspense to sci-fi, to interesting character Christopher Nolan type movies. So yeah, I know it's not quite answering the question, but it is saying that's not an error, and it also doesn't even cover the breadth of work of what's about to happen.
With some people, it is an error. I think whenever you talk to Eric Roberts, you'll see 200 plus upcoming titles. But it's good to know that it's not an error for you. And with the different genres, of course, you've also done video game work. And let's
Right.
face it, more people see video game work than the majority of the film and television projects these days. So kudos to you for staying very flexible, very bendable for
Thank
what
you.
you'll do. So is there anything happening on the music end in the near future?
So I'm not sure. A lot of the music that I was doing over the last couple years was in between, and it was with my ex at the time, and um, or my now ex. And so, with since our separation, a lot of the focus has been on just film.
Hmm.
Um, Music is something because we have this body of work with the music, which we call the vault, basically.
The ball.
So with the vault and access to it, I would say my goal is by the end of this year to really start diving into and recording and releasing a lot of that stuff. Um, but as for right now, and at least for the first 6 months of the year, it's just going to be focused on film.
So there's the acting, there's the producing, there's the music. You are a creative. And does that lead to any downtime? Or the second that you have downtime, you look for new projects?
A lot of my downtime is set up in either seeking or already is planning, like collaborative, whether that's jam sessions or creative, mind node sessions or writing things or what the next project is going to be. And it's about prep, because it's tough to go from movie to movie to movie. And it requires a lot of
Hmm.
just breaking down the scripts and understanding characters and how am I going to make this one different or what am I leaning into or all of this. So I will say unfortunately at the moment it doesn't create a lot of downtime, which is why going back to Christmas, thank goodness I got to go hang out and spend time with my nephews and my family because I've
Cool.
been working, really intensely. But I will say this is not necessarily something that I want to keep doing, so I would really like to in the future start slowing down to like one or two movies a year or something like that. Oh,
Mhm.
that that sounds fantastic. But that's either going to be it's definitely not going to be this year, but it might be in the books for next year.
Got it. Positive resolutions. Well,
Yeah.
two quick softball questions, and then I let you roam free and talk to the next person who asks you the same
You're great,
questions
man.
over and
You're
over and
great.
over again. And uh, first one, obviously not a lot of downtime, but you are a music person. What's the last concert that you went to for fun? Not because someone said, "Hey, you got to have a chemistry test with this person," or you might write with them. It's just fun. What do you go to?
I'd say the easiest things because they can be the most sporadic are going and supporting friends. So, especially when I'm here in LA. So, in December was my last one. And because it's kind of like, oh, I have the night. I am not, I'm going to take a break from prepping and doing research or whatever I have to do for this next one. And then, boom, a friend of mine will have something like playing at the Viper Room or something like that. And it's like, okay, great. I can go, I can swing by for a couple hours, support them, see the show, and then so it's I can't really be a part of mainstream because in terms of viewing and pleasure, just because that requires time and that requires planning, and that means I have to like buy a ticket a month in advance or something like that, and I can't do that because I don't know where I'm going to be in a month. But within a weekend, I can be like, you know what, I'm gonna go support my buddy Josh, or I'm gonna go see Caroline sing and play, and I can do that tonight and then still be back and get the work done that I need to do.
You called out the
So,
vibe. So do you have more of a hard rock or punk rock background that we don't know about?
oh, I grew up on that. Come on.
Okay, so I
No
didn't
worries.
know that. I'm wearing a Hall and Oates
Oh
shirt
yeah.
as a joke, but I mean, there's Misfits and Kiss and Van Halen, and all that all around here. So I didn't know
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm an 80s kid through and through, but there was definitely an alternative because when I was growing up going to high school, that whole alternative genre didn't exist.
Right.
So that was like the thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? And now it's not even called alternative anymore. But I remember when that term first started getting used, and I was like, oh, frog stomp, and all
Oh,
this, like, right? I mean, so I grew up on that, and that's what we'd listen to, going in football games and getting pumped up, and Guns N' Roses and all of that. Yeah. So there's a special place in my heart. So when I go to the Viper Room or anything like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. There's something that hits home.
so that's an interesting thing about you, that you're able to put on the mainstream face, but then have the counterculture personality and keep it hidden. So in other words, you smile when the time is right, and then you're a different Jonathan Stoddard.
I'd like to say multifaceted, right? It's like not every day is a beach volleyball day, but then not every day is the morose or morose like, oh, let's just go read poetry. No, I mean I enjoy all of it. Part of the creative, which is not only about what I'm learning, but it's about the appreciation for everything in every art form. Um, Personally, I feel like the discrediting or the disliking of something, a lot of that is really about a lack of appreciation or the lack of trying to appreciate something for what it is. So I don't care what genre of music it is. I love learning and diving in, and that's everything from bluegrass to punk to even just the acoustic to pop. Like it doesn't matter. My taste is really really wide, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy so many things and learn how to do so many things.
Wow, so there is a little Glenn Danzig inside you. That's the
Oh
biggest takeaway. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to say, thank you for your time. It's fascinating to see somebody who's successful in a variety of ways that keeps all the plates spinning without seeming burnt out. So congratulations on
No,
that
thank you.
end, and really looking forward to what's to come, no matter the genre or medium.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Paltrocast.